Hey, we asked for the Senators to bring some ruckus. They did it. Went down 0-3 in the first period, then scored 3 goals in the second period. Now, the game ended 4-3, which was nice because we hit our over and we hit some of our player props. But the only thing that was missing was a truly back-and-forth third period that would have allowed us to get all of them, like the Forsberg and the Sanderson. I think Sanderson had a point, and then they took it away. You know those scores. They giveth and taketh away. And if you've ever bet on shots on goal, you know what I'm talking about. But it was a pretty good night. Decent amount of that stuff hit. And now we're looking at Tuesday. Interestingly enough, when you glance at the page quickly, you're like, oh my God, this is just a bunch of teams not in the playoffs, a bunch of nobodies. These games could go wild, because if you're playing your last game before the break, that's like you on a Friday before like a 5-day weekend at work. You know, there's an extended work weekend coming. Are you most productive on that last day? Are you really trying to get things done? Or when that email comes in, do you kind of hit mark as unread so you know the person doesn't get a notification? Oh, he must have not seen it. Oh, maybe he's out of the office already. You know you aren't paying attention to detail. Whatever it is that teams do to win, especially defensively, you can't think they're going to be as locked in. And I mean, Carlo alluded to this on Friday. So in these games, I kind of wish it was Sharks, Ducks, and a bunch of truly non-playoff teams, and it looks like that when you take a look at the matchups. But both the St. Louis Blues, who are playing tonight, and also the Seattle Kraken, who are playing tonight, they're in that Western Conference wildcard race. And believe it or not, the St. Louis Blues have scraped together some wins. You can't ask for a better West Coast trip. Then they came home, and they almost fell to the Carlo Koliakovo point that he told us. Anytime someone's on the West Coast, you bet against them in that next game. They went down to the Kings, ended up winning in overtime. So you're looking at a Blues team that's on a nice win streak, and they're playing a Columbus Blue Jackets team who you look at them and you go, oh, this game could have ruckus potential. But you never know with these Jackets, because you saw that in Vancouver and you didn't see it at all against the Kraken. But you know the Kraken are a relatively good defensive team. But these Columbus Blue Jackets are playing their third game in 4 nights. They did lose Adam Fantilli. You know that Patrick Laine has been out of the lineup. He checked himself in for... They have this name for it. Just call it rehab. It's a lot easier for me to communicate to you. Does he just walk in and Nichushkin's sitting there? Oh, hey. I'm not laughing at their potential issues. I'm laughing at the thought of Nichushkin just doing that turn when the door cracks open. Is anyone else there? Anyway, look, I got no sponsors. Give me a break. Maybe if I have a sponsor. You imagine that? You imagine Colgate called me, Andy, we saw you do the Nichushkin turn when you suggested that Laine was going to be walking in a theoretical rehab facility. Well, that's the beautiful thing about having you guys being the sponsors of this show, the part-time Patreon Green Bay Packer minority owners, that I can say things like that and get away with it. But as far as this game goes, I gotta trust these Blues to win again, because we're getting a decent price. Like, I don't think the Blues are much at all in the long run, but as I've mentioned many times throughout the course of a season, might be early, might be the middle, might be late, every team gets their point break wave that they ride to a bunch of wins in a row. And I think St. Louis is at like 4 or 5. You saw this from Anaheim earlier in this season. I keep bringing that up because you've seen how it's fallen apart completely for them. There are no more win streaks for Anaheim. Maybe at the end of the year. They start with one, they end with one. But every single team is capable of going on a run. And when we're getting this price at home against a team who's playing their third game in 4 nights, I believe all of them on the road, maybe not one of them, but minimum 3 on the road. A lot of traveling. Their last ones were up in the Northwest. I mean, they were playing Seattle and Vancouver. Not an easy schedule. I mean, you know they'll be looking forward to the All-Star break. So, I mean, this could be a stomping. What I'm seeing is a really hot line on the St. Louis Blues. The same way I talked about the mega stacked line last night for Ottawa, and all 3 of those guys ended up on the score sheet. It's not that level of talent, but there's a considerable amount of talent on this line, and these guys are red hot. I'm talking about Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, and Jordan Kyrou. And coincidentally, all three of these guys are on the top power play. So there should be multiple opportunities for these guys to accrue some points against a poor defensive team who has poor goaltending. And I think this is a chance to go with the Blues to win. And if you add Buchnevich, you can get them at plus money. One of the best reasons to add a player prop is to bring down massive favorites. There's a couple different ways we can go about this, but because I don't truly trust St. Louis's ability defensively, and I don't know how much juice Columbus is going to have, there's a part of me that wants to go over 6.5. How about this? I'll give you a little side bet, an over 6.5 side bet. But I want to take the Blues with Buchnevich. That will give you them at plus money. And then also the same thing we did last night. Let's see if we can get real greedy. So I'm just looking for that line. It could happen on one goal. We might need two, but many times you see all three forwards on a line touch the puck and factor in on a goal, and we can smack that bet right there. When I do things like that, I'm trying to do them against teams in situations where there should be plenty of scoring opportunities. At home against Columbus, this top line that's currently hot should absolutely have plenty of opportunities to do that. So give me that parlay of their entire top line to register a point against the Columbus Blue Jackets. You already heard me say that I like them to win the game. Now, because of that Fantilli injury, he was on the power play 1. They experimented with different power plays. So what I'm going to do, if I'm going to go the ruckus route, give me 2 points for Robert Thomas, who has been on fire. And then give me a point for Zach Werenski. Still getting a good price on him. He should be out there in all situations, whether it's top power play, eating a bunch of minutes. We know he's their top defenseman, always getting a good price. Rather than going with Gaudreau, I want to go with a defenseman over there. And that's what I'll do in that game right there. I imagine the Blues will close this first chunk of the season here before the All-Star break with a win to put a nice exclamation point on this recent run of success they've been on. Second game, very complicated, very tricky. We got the Cockroaches scurrying their way down to play the San Jose Sharks. Couple X factors in this game. I'm literally going to have to give 2 series of bets because I like one series of bets if these players play, and then a different series of bets if these other players play. So the first one is Tomas Hertl. He left the last game briefly, came back, didn't practice. I think he'll play. If he came back to the last game and he's going to play in the All-Star game and he's not getting yanked, my thought is he'll be available in this game. If he is available in this game, then I want to take Logan Couture. I've been doing this off to the side. Sometimes I test one of my theories for a few games on my own, and then, like, a medication or something that got tested on some weird subjects off to the side, then I bring it to you guys and say, here are the human trials. So if you see Hertl playing as the top center on line 1, which puts Logan Couture on line 2, I want the plus money under on his point prop. I've taken it every game since he's been back. He got me game 1. I've got him every game since. He's an old guy on a bad team who missed the entire season. So he's just getting his legs under him still, and the opportunities are far and few between. In the same way in the last game, I said I'm looking for line combinations to get points against a team in a situation where those will be available. At home against Columbus, those are going to be available for the St. Louis Blues. But playing against the Kraken, who are a good defensive team and are getting great goaltending from Decord, then I think that's a great plus money under on Logan Couture. Now, the big if is Grubauer got activated from the IR, and there's a chance he could play. So, 2 major factors here. Oh, Andy, we have to check this? How could you do that to us? How dare we have to look something up? All right, go ahead, take it. I don't give a rat's ass. This is what you have to do if you want to win. You have to check and see who the starting goalies are and what the injuries are and what the line combinations are and the top power play. You do work, you win, you're lazy, you lose. It's very simple, but I guess, time will tell to see what you do. So Decord starting, Hertl in. I'm taking the under on a Logan Couture point. Joey Decord in. I also want the Seattle Kraken to win, and I can add that on top of that point. I also, whether Decord plays or not, I like that Jared McCann point. I've mentioned this a couple days ago. He's one of those guys. He's one of those scorers. When he gets hot, it's like Toyota, hot, hot, hot. And he's in one of those runs right now. I mean, he popped in 40-something goals last year. And I think he got 2 points last game. He's been getting point after point after point. He's on that top line, top power play, everything you want to hear. We'll see what the situation with Beniers is. But to me, if you have a good game and things work out, you don't tinker with any of that lineup. So I would go with McCann and the Kraken to win, especially if Decord is playing. Now, if he's not playing and you see them wheel Grubauer in and Hurdle is playing, then I think we have an opportunity for some weird potential, all-star games about to be here. Let's just throw some caution to the wind. Don't like it with a team like Seattle in there, but since Grubauer hasn't been good at all and it's his first game back, will be rusty, then it could be one of these where you're getting points from guys on both sides. But just to kind of sum that up for you, if Tomas Hertl on the Sharks plays and Decord, the starting goalie who earned the job over Grubauer earlier this year, plays, I want the under on a Logan Couture point. That's like plus 110. If either of the opposite happens, so there's no Decord, there's no Hertl, I'm out on that Logan Couture. Regardless of who's starting or who's doing what, I like Jared McCann to register a point. If Decord is starting, I like the Seattle Kraken to win on the road, and you can combine that with the McCann point. Or I know some of you people out there always love the Vince Dunn point. That is what I have for you here on a Tuesday. Make sure you follow up with those news and those updates. You can find them. If we can find them, you can find them. And I'll be back with you tomorrow to close out the pre-All-Star NHL slate. And then on Friday, I will do an episode of Pickin' Corners. I'm going to be fielding more questions from the Patreon members. So if you want me to cover any topic or talk about anything, you can join over there. It's patreon.com/Andy Francess. I always put a link below in the description of this video. It should be right there, first line. And then I'll be back with you guys tomorrow to talk Wednesday night Sniffs. I'll see you then.